At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Justice of the Supreme Court of Ohio, Judith French. Judith French became the 155th Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court on January the 1st, 2012. Prior to her appointment, Justice French served at the 10th District Court of Appeals, which hears appeals from Franklin County courts and state administrative agencies. She was elected to the appellate court in November 2004 and served until her Supreme Court appointment. Prior to becoming a judge, Justice French served as chief legal counsel to Governor Taft. While serving as chief counsel in the Office of Attorney General Betty Montgomery, she argued twice in the United States Supreme Court. Most recently, she argued on behalf of the state in the Cleveland school voucher case. Justice French has earned a BA in political science and MA in history, military history, and strategic studies. She earned a Juris Doctorate with honors, all from the Ohio State University. She currently serves as a member of the Moritz College of Law National Council. Justice French grew up in Sebring, Ohio, a small town in Mahoning County, and was a mentor and tutor in the Columbus Public Schools. Justice French resides in Grandview Heights with her husband, Ed Skeens, who is a magistrate in the Franklin County Common Pleas Court. They have 2 children, Julia and Joseph. Please join me in welcoming Judith French. Also, I forgot to tell you, please turn off your cell phones. Officers, you can now leave for a moment.
Thank you and good morning for this wonderful opportunity to speak to you today as you celebrate another year of OFRW on this not so beautiful spring morning. You have such a wonderful history, and I know that you're going to continue that success over the next year. In honor of this occasion, I feel like I should say something about being a woman on the Supreme Court of Ohio, but really that's hardly unique. As Jean mentioned, I did serve on the 10th District Court of Appeals. We have 8 judges on that court, 5 were women. The governor has just replaced this week, announced my replacement, and it's another woman. The 9th District Court of Appeals in Akron is all women. As you know very well, in 2010, Ohio elected our first woman as Chief Justice with Maureen O'Connor, and I'm the 10th woman to serve in the capacity of being a justice on the court, and I'm one of 4 women currently serving. When the 7 of us get together to deliberate the cases, we do so in a beautiful room that we appropriately call the deliberation room. We sit in order of seniority with the Chief Justice sitting at the head of the table, and those of us below the Chief Justice sit in order of seniority with me and Justice O'Neill at the other end. And far up on the wall of law books in front of me, there's a little sign that says "Girls Rule." So when at least the 4 of us agree, I have to agree that we do in fact rule. So any attempt to tell you today that I have in some way been disadvantaged as a woman, I think would be fairly disingenuous for me. For me, being a justice on the Supreme Court of Ohio is a dream come true, or maybe a plan come true. It's something that I have wanted for a very long time. But I would be a failure in this role if I didn't recognize how I got here and to help other people get here as well. The great athlete Davidson reminded us that no matter what accomplishments you make, somebody helped you get there. And I think, oh, there we go. Sorry. But certainly a lot of people have helped me. When I look back on my academic and professional life as a student or an attorney or as a judge, I see my path as a series of outstretched hands. Some holding and supporting me, some reaching back to pull me along, helping me attain my goals. There was a news item a few weeks ago out of New Zealand, and it was about a 12-year-old boy that was swept out into the ocean, and ended up about 500 feet offshore. One man went in to try to rescue beachgoers linked arms and got to the boy and the man who was to be the rescuer, and they pulled them both back to land. That's how I think of all of us, as us being a part of the human chain, where we're reaching forward to accept an outstretched hand, or maybe we're reaching back to help someone who needs assistance. And I think that's where the OFRW comes in. You know, your history goes back 88 years to a woman named Elizabeth Clark, a school teacher from Steubenville, who started this organization, and then it was revived after a brief period of dormancy. It was revived in 1940 by a woman named Catherine Kennedy Brown. I can imagine that they were not just creating that organization for them. They were creating it for us. And so they have really put forward their effort so that all of you and I can benefit from that. So thank you to all of you who are members, who are board members, who are staff, or maybe you are just supporters for building on that foundation of the OFRW from so many years ago. Thank you for taking your turn to build on the past and to help people like me. Most voters know why it's important to elect a governor, and they know what they want in a governor. But they can't tell you very well what they want in a justice. So what I would really like is for all of you to be a voice for good judges and good justices in Ohio. Thank you again. We seem to have some wanderers coming in from the right. But thank you so much for having me, and thank you for your celebration today. I'm so happy to be a part of it. Thank you. It's my honor to introduce all of these ladies officially to you. President Jean Turner. First Vice President, Program Chair, and Webmaster Lynn Bliss. President, and Photography Co-Chair Peg Reddick. Southwest Vice President Linda Burke. Bylaws Chair and Parliamentarian Ann Brown. Chaplain and Caring for America Co-Chair Anna Caldwell. Cardinal Fund Chair Joanne Arndt. Campaign Coordinator Terry Studer. Not here. Fundraising Chair, Tribute to Women Chair, and Voter Issues Co-Chair Marilyn Clark. Membership Chair and Past President Marianne Christie. Membership Co-Chair Wanda Curtis. Photographer Chair Betty Martin. Digital Photography Chair Tammy Pop. Political Education and Legislative Chair Wanda Cusick. Public Relations Chair Missy Mae Walters. Twitter Chair Rhea McFozzie. Voter Issues Chair Becky Lynch. Women in Business Chair Jennifer Springer. Thank you very much, ladies. Can we give them another round of applause?
At this time, the meeting of the Ohio Federation of Republican Women will come to order. As you will notice and have probably heard, we have had a new face up here, and it is our new OFRW treasurer, Mary Beth Kimmer from Troy, Ohio. Mary Beth was appointed by the executive board to fill the vacancy of Karen McTagg, who resigned because of a new job as deputy director of the Ottawa County Board of Elections, which prohibits her from holding an elected political office. So we want to welcome Mary Beth, who stepped right in, and I was so thankful. Welcome, Mary Beth. And with that, you want me to hand you the microphone for the treasurer's report?
Thank you, Jean. It really has been a pleasure stepping into this. Number one, I want to thank Karen. I'm sure you all know her, but I have not met her in person, but she has been so kind and generous with her time when I call her. So if you know her and see her, I hope you'll tell her how much it means to me that she's been that kind. The other person I did want to thank was Judy Boland, who also has been absolutely the kindest person and really giving up her time to me so that I could maybe get things sort of straight. So I'm working on that. You'll find in your packet the current treasurer's report. I do want you to know that Lynn had the books audited before I got them by Carol. Am I right? Carol Ginn. Carol Ginn, who is she county auditor? County auditor in Dark County. So she audited the books and then I got them. This form is the way Karen has done it in the past. We'll probably stay similar to this for a while unless you have suggestions and other things you'd like to see. Looks like we're in good shape. We've had an audit. Our taxes are with H&R Block. We have until next week to finish those, so we'll get those done. And if you have any questions, I will try really hard to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Those will be filed for audit. Minutes from the last meeting. Lori Hart, our secretary, has provided you with a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. Lori, shall we suspend reading of those minutes? Is that okay with you if we suspend the reading? Yes. Are there any additions or corrections to those meetings? If not, could I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Please state your name.
Jeannie Bolton, Licking County.
Pardon?
Jeannie Bolton, Licking County.
Jeannie Bolton, Licking County. A second.
I second. Here it comes.
I seen Wanda's name hand first. Wanda Cusack from
Hancock County.
Hancock County, second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The business. Pardon? The business report. Last night we chose our nominating committee. We elected for the nominating committee. As you know, in the fall we will be having our election of officers. They were elected as Risa Roach, Chair, Ann Brown, Tammy Puff, Kathy Wise, and Lori Hart. Missy May is an alternate, and April Gibson Cohagen is also an alternate. Okay. Did you have something to say as chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Disorganized here, unless you notice. If you all remember how we did this in the past few years, we were asking ladies who are interested to send a resume and just a paragraph or two about why you're interested in serving as an officer. And we will have posted on the website the information about how you can get those to the members of the committee. We're probably going to ask you to send your information to each member of the committee. So watch the website for information about the officers if you're interested in running for office. We hope that you will be interested. This is a great organization. It's a wonderful place to meet new friends. Yeah, a brief resume and a brief statement of interest. Any questions?
Thank you, Risa. I'm always afraid I'm going to miss them, so I'm going to go on and read here what I have. If you are interested in holding an office, please contact one of these ladies. We will have their names and email addresses on the website, or you can call the office for me too. Our OFRW bylaws are on the website, so if you need to know what this entails, it is right there. Just click on, after you go to www.OFRW.com, there is an icon at the top that says bylaws. Anyone that is a member of a federated club may run for office. There is president, first vice president. There are 6 district vice presidents: Central, East, Northeast, Northwest, South, and Southwest. We are working on a redistricting, but at this time that hasn't taken effect. There are, you are in for one term for 2 years. I've served my, like you have two terms you can run for. I'm in my 4th year, so I'll be done as president at the end of this year. The voting body at the fall meeting right here at the Worthington Country Club on October the 19th shall consist of the members of the board of directors. Club delegates will be based on a membership numbers 45 days prior to the vote. And if I calculated that right, it is September the 4th. Is that correct, Ann? The voting will be club presidents, 1 for membership up to 15, 1 for each additional 15 members or a major fraction thereof. And each club is entitled to an alternate for each delegate, including the club president. An alternate may vote only in the absence of the delegate or the president. Now, I know you can't remember that all. That's why I'm telling you, if you go to the website and get on the bylaws, you will see what this entails for you to be a delegate or an alternate, because it explains it very well. And did you want to say anything as our bylaws chair?
Really, but you might tell them that they will be getting a notice from every club that goes to national.
If you're planning to go to the national, NFRW biennial in Louisville, in September, each club is entitled to a delegate, and you will be entitled to vote. And you cannot have an alternate, if I'm correct, but you are entitled to one vote for each club that goes. So, you want to be sure, and you will be getting your forms, I think it comes out to the state office.
Yeah, from national, I haven't received it.
No, well, you wouldn't get it, but it was issued by national, but I think the state sends it, and then Jean, has to approve. But, so if you receive something like that, through the mail or, on the email, and I'm not sure how they're gonna do it, but each club will be entitled to one vote when you go to the biennial. So you might be thinking about that too, when you're considering going. And if you've never attended a national convention, it makes you feel so good to belong to an organization where you can women from all over the United States, and they're so friendly, and they'll be running for office. And one of the women that will be running, I think, for president is from Louisiana. And at the last convention, when she was elected first vice president, she flew in things to New Orleans, and they had a Dixieland band and jazz and stuff. And it's just a lot of fun, in addition to doing a lot of business. So, you know, I'd encourage you all, if you've never attended one, to try to get to Louisville, because that's probably the closest one we have. They're trying to have them throughout the United States in different regions, because at one time it was either Washington every spring, and then the states would bid on it. And Ohio had one in the early 90s, and we had it in Cincinnati. And we had a big attendance. So you might consider it and think about it, and you can have 2 or 3 in a room at the hotel at the Forest Hotel in Chicago. And you'll be receiving more information, but you might think about it, and 2 or 3 at the go or something to share a room. But I've only missed 3 in about 50-some years, so it's been like my vacation. So you might think about it, and I hope you'll attend.
And we're going to keep Ann in our prayers too, because Ann is having some surgery in July on her hip, and she said, told her doctor, she will be going to Kentucky, to Louisville. I'm going to go on with the biennial on September the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd is when the biennial is in Louisville, Kentucky. And ladies, this is a great, great event. We've gone to Nashville, we've gone to Florida, California, so this is within driving distance, which is really nice. So please, please keep your eye on the website and plan to bring a caravan, share a room, and register to attend. How many here have ever been to a biennium? Oh, you girls don't know what you're missing. Oh, you weren't listening. You have been there, okay. Okay, we'll forgive you, Becky. Oh, yeah, she says you do have to register at the for the hotel by yourself, at the golf house. And that's all on the national website. And we'll be on ours too. Lynn, do you want to add anything to this about the website or anything that you're going to, because we've had a lot of questions just since I've been here today, even about a room. We have a girl over here from my own club in Sandusky County, Stand Up, Wendy. I just have Wendy's a brand new member, and I've just recently Wendy was asking me about it, and she said she would like to share a room with someone. So, you know, if you can share a room, and she lives over by Fremont, Ohio. But you can meet somewhere. Lynn and I know will be going early, along with, I'm sure, Mary Ann and a few of the others that's on the national board. We'll be going quite early. So, Lynn, do you want to say anything else that I missed about this? Or we'll try to ask questions of Mary Ann and Linda, Marilyn, we've all been there, so, chime in if you got any, replies to any other questions.
There's someone else that has a question I asked.
Deadline to register, I know not the hotel, but the NFRW.
Just let me say, if you're not getting information from NFRW, you should be if you have an email. However, they will not send it to you unless you have let them know that you want to get things from them. The spam laws, we try to send out a minimum of things because it's just not good to plug up people's mailboxes. So they have the policy that you have to let them know that you want to receive things from them. So you need to go on the NFRW website, and right off the top of my head, I can't remember the links, but if you go to the members section, and you have to have a password to get in, and they'll email it to you. It takes a little bit of time, but you can go in and sign up. That is where you will find the information about registering. They just came up, I think, last week with the link to where you can go to get the NFRW special rate for the biennial. And you can register now for your room. You can cancel up to 48 hours prior without any kind of a penalty. The deadline, I don't know, but I will be posting as soon as they post all the call and everything on their website. We'll have a link on our Ohio website for all of those things. So they're just starting to get things out. So there's a lot of it that we really don't know other than the actual date, and that it's a great time. When we went to Kansas City, all of us that went, it was right after the royal wedding, and we all had fascinators made, and we all wore a fascinator. The Ohio group, the Texas ladies always wear special hats. It's just a lot of fun. So if there's any way you can get the time to go down to Louisville, it'd just be fantastic. So I hope I've covered the questions. Like I say, as soon as we get the information, it'll be posted on the website, so you can check for it there.
There's 800
They also have an 800 number for the next
Okay, yes, and thank you. There is an 800 number too on the National Federation website that you can call directly if you have questions. Karen?
What's a fascinator? What did you wear?
If you remember when the royal wedding was, the ladies all had these things that were just kind of hanging on the side of their head, different things, and they're on a real thin band that fits down under your hair. And so we had, ours weren't quite as big and elaborate, but they were maybe about like that, and all different red, white, and blues. And I think we're gonna do the same thing again. I've got a friend here in Dayton who does costuming for the Dayton Ballet, and I think she's gonna make us some really neat ones, everybody that goes, so.
If you remember Dorothy Ginther, one of our past OFRW presidents, one year, do you remember, Mary Ann, what year we wore these? I think Nashville. I think it was Nashville. She got us all these hats and put Ohio, and if you don't think that was, we will have like Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, just like you see at a regular convention. We all sit in a big room, and they'll have the posts. Well, that's where all the Ohio ladies sit. And we all had our little Ohio hats on. We were on TV, and it's really exciting. It's like going to Tampa or someplace for Romney. Then they also, oh yes, Judy.
I was just going to say that should they call NFRW and they tell them that they don't have them in eGuard, it's because I am behind in getting members in. Should really start being able to really work on it.
I tell you, Chairman Bennett talked to me yesterday in the office, and he said, Jean, you have a wonderful, hard-working secretary with Judy, executive secretary with Judy Bowles. She had all, thank you, by the way, for all your Cardinal donations with Joanne Arndt as chairman.
May I give a report, or were you going to do that?
I think the report is to say, do you need the mic?
No.
Okay. We'll go back to this, like, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't want to forget either. I do want to thank everyone for contributing. At prison, our.
Wait a minute, they can't hear you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. I have an update. We have had 59 contributors, and at the present time, we have $5,215 for the Cardinal Fund. And I also have lots of papers if anyone is interested in contributing today. The whole letter is here, also how much you may donate if you'd like to do that. So thank you very much. Also, after Mother's Day, I'm supposed to call the governor's residence, and we will have a date probably set then for all of you who have donated $100 or more. It's a beautiful place, the gardens. We've been there for 3 years now, I guess. This is our 4th year. And we kind of have a nice time together. So I'll be glad. I have about 10 of these. Hope you can fill them out. Thank you.
Thank you. While I'm standing here, Mary Ann asked to talk about something, so I'll give her the microphone too.
All right. We have in Ohio the only online Republican women's club in the nation. And every year I come to you at the spring conference and ask you to join us as an associate member because you all belong to another club. So if you would, in your packet, there's this form. It will cost $10. And I think it's important because when I go and ask for speakers to make videos that are put on YouTube, you know, it's nice for me to be able to say, oh, we have, 50 members. And last year we had 20 regular and about 28 associate members. And in order to encourage you to join, I'm going to raffle off this bag. So everybody who fills in their name and gives me the $10 will put your membership, associate membership into the bag and draw it, and somebody will win this bag.
Mary Ann, could you explain what an associate membership is for, what about somebody out of state?
Oh, you can be from anywhere become an associate member. We've had people from Tennessee, Louisiana, Washington become associate members. That is just a woman that can fill it in, pay your $10, and you are now an associate member of an online, the only online club. California has one, but it's only a district. Texas has one, and it's only a county. Florida has a statewide, but it's not functioning. So Ohio, we've had the Ohio Republican chairman. We've had the Attorney General do videos for us. We've had videos on Common Core, Agenda 21. These are all real important issues that are happening in our country. So I'm hoping that we'll have Matt Borges meeting one for September, our next meeting. What we do is we send out an email saying, this is the day we're going to be putting out a video. Video stays on YouTube for about a week, and then the following Sunday, we have a free conference call where we can talk for about a half an hour and share ideas. So it's the beginning. I mean, it's been a work in progress to get this online club. So in your packet, you have this online. If you'll fill it in and have $10, I'd be happy to pick them up. And at lunchtime, we'll do a drawing. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's see, I think we ended with Judy here, and was there anything else, Judy, you had to say? Okay. We're back to the biennial for a minute. We also have a page Do you know what a page is? It's when they carry the Ohio State flag in when all these people are seated. And it's a young lady, ages 15 through
14 to 17.
Okay, 14? Okay, 14 through 17. And that girl from Ohio would carry the Ohio flag in. And I don't think there was many dry eyes as our Ohio flag came in. Karen McTagg, the one that was our treasurer, her daughter, Caitlin, went the first year while I was president, and the second year in Louisiana, her twin daughter, Addison, went. And they wanted to know if they couldn't go again. They just really, really enjoyed it. So if there's anybody here that if they have a daughter or a granddaughter that would want to be the page, we don't have one yet. Just turn it in. Probably, I would say, send it in and tell us who she is, how old she is, that you as a parent or grandparent would be being her chaperone. The Ohio Federation of Republican Women will donate $100 for her to spend while she's there. Her registration is paid, but you are responsible for the room, taking care of her, and there's times when she goes off with the chaperone group, I think, too.
They have parties for them, and they have a lot of things going on in that group.
They also have a lot of parties and group get-togethers for the girls that are serving the state. So it's kind of a fun thing for them as well as being patriotic and helping the state. So it's really a wonderful experience for the young lady.
Yeah, and we do need that as soon as possible. That part of it does have to be turned in because then there can only be one. Then if there's like 3, 4, the board will get together, executive board, and we'll choose one. Sorry, there's only one. If we get 5, there's still only one. So just, I'd say send your resume right into Judy at the office. I think that would be better, then I'll get it from there. Judy, you're going to be gone for a month, right?
Yes.
Judy is going with her sister, who is a missionary, to where, Judy?
Hanatay in Micronesia, and it's halfway between Honolulu and Manila, the Philippines.
So the office will be closed for a month, although somebody last night, wasn't that April?
Yes.
And April now is in the hospital. She said she would go in and help while Judy was gone, but since she's in the hospital, we don't know. I live near Toledo, so I won't be in the office every day. And that is what date again?
Don't know yet.
Oh.
She's waiting on a good deal. Well, actually, I'm waiting to find out from my pet sitter.
Oh.
Which dates are best.
Just 4 dogs.
I have a pet sitter that comes to the house and stays with me. So she's cheap and she's good, so I can afford it.
But it is truly an honor to have that page there. So please, is there anybody that has a daughter, granddaughter that you think might be interested?
Yes.
Oh, and you would be willing to go as her?
Yes.
Good.
I talked to her about it. She's
And
very
if you know,
excited. She's very excited. She'll be 17 in June.
Good.
Goes to Crooksville High School.
Okay.
Wonderful. She's an associate member of our club in Worthington County, and she goes to Washington D.C. with us every year for Kufi, and she's very active.
Okay, get with me after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And if there's still anybody else that's interested, send her, I'm gonna call her a resume into the office. How are we doing on time? Okay, then I'll go on. What is an associate member? Republican women who have primary membership in a federated local club are eligible for an associate membership. So, say I'm a member of a federated club, let's say in Ottawa County, and I want to be an associate member in another county, like Canfield or Dark or online club, I can be an associate member. There has been many questions about this, of what is an associate member? If you're, they can't vote, an associate member, they can't hold an office in that club. And men can be an associate member. Men are eligible for membership, and the club can decide what dues that they want to get from these men. Then the club keeps all of this money that the men turn in, but these men cannot hold office, they can't vote, they can't be on the NFRW or the OFRW membership. So that way, you get to keep all their money. Now, in our county, we started out with about 4 men. Peg, how many men do we have now? 10, 20, 10, 15?
Almost 20, about 18 right now.
And so what we did, we said, well, you know, we honor these women. So at our banquet, what we do, we give them just a little pin or a pen or something, and they gotta stand up and get that pen. Well, first thing you know, the commissioners thought, gee, if that guy's a member, an associate member of these women, we better be in it. First thing you know, the judge says, well, I better be too. First thing you know, we had $20 from each man that really helped our club so we could help the people get elected in our local community. So, is there any other business that you need to bring before this?
See, one thing in that, on the associate member,
Yeah.
they do not send it, put them on the membership roster and send it into the office. We don't take that at all.
Right, do not put those men on your membership. They do not count as a
Well,
member.
even the women that's an
Right,
associate.
the women alike, they are not members of your club, so you don't count them as only those members that don't belong to another club. Those are your members. Otherwise, they're an associate member. Risa.
2 things. I don't believe that you can count associate members in your awards totals either. And would you all please, when you sign the cards at your table, if you can still write, would you pass, share with another table so we can get as many signatures here today as possible. And we need to pass the hat on.
Linda has something else.
Just one clarification on the associate member. And this is, it's really causes a lot of confusion, but a good way to look at it is you may not, if you're a woman, now men are a different bird, so we deal with separately, obviously. If you're a woman, you may not be an associate member in any club until you're a full member in some club. So, in other words, I'm a member of Dark County, that's where I pay my full dues, that's where my name gets reported to Judy. I'm also an associate member of the online club, I think maybe I'm an associate member of one of the other clubs. But you've gotta have that full membership somewhere before you can be an associate anywhere else. I hope that's clear,
But Lynn, you can also be an associate in 5 clubs.
Yeah,
It
that's what-
doesn't mean
Right.
just one associate, you can be an associate in a lot of different clubs.
That's correct. Robin,
Yes, ma'am.
you have an announcement.
I do. I put on each of the tables.
Stand up so they can hear you.
Sure. I put on each of the tables these flyers from the NFRW. This is in regards to the campaign management school that will be held in Mansfield on June 29th. And you can go online directly to the NFRW website. You register online. But this is happening on June 29th. I didn't see it on the calendar. Just want to make sure folks register and come to this.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else to be brought to this meeting?
This does not only apply to men, obviously.
I can't hear you.
Correct.
This does not apply to men.
No. Men can come to this.
No, I'm not
Oh.
talking about that. I'm talking about the associate.
The associate, what about it? They're not full members. Yeah.
that was only for women, what I was talking about.
you want your delegates to count. Judy has to, like she said, put all of these in eGuard in order for our membership to count for delegates. So get those membership dues in. They need to be into national by June the 1st. So Judy has a big job, and we're getting very close, very close. So get the membership in, bring it in after June the 1st too. It's just that they don't count for membership with the NFRW delegates. Okay, I guess there is nothing else that I have for the business meeting. Meeting is adjourned. And Ryan Mafazzi, come forward, please. I'd like to introduce to you Raya Mafazzi. She is from Hamilton County. She is a very young girl to start a brand new club. I have her charter here. It says, excuse me, charter. This is to certify that Young Republican Women of Cincinnati is a member in good standing of the Ohio Federation of Republican Women and the National Federation of Republican Women. National President, Ray Lynn Chernecki. State President, Jean Turner. Date, January the 12th, 13. Her club number, 460-11813. So congratulations, Raya.
This was so exciting to me to have these young women form this club in Cincinnati, not out in the city where there are plenty of Democrats. It's Democrat controlled, and so they're down there and they're making a difference, and it was just so exciting. And I'm so happy to have her and the group working together.
Just ecstatic to be a part of this organization, and we're looking forward to hopefully creating the next generation of Republican leaders. And then just a quick side note, I am the Twitter chair, so if you are on Twitter, please follow us. It's OFRW, and make sure you're tweeting all the time. So OFRW for this Twitter, and then YRW Cincinnati for ours. Thank you.
I tell you, I went online, and I don't know, Ryan don't know this, but may I ask, are you a professional skater?
I'm retired. I'm retired. But yes, I was.
I went online, and your brother is also, right, or was?
Correct. Yes, we skated together, and he retired a little bit before me, and I retired 3 years ago.
Wonderful. One more applause for Ryan. It's so wonderful to have these a lot of young faces in the crowd. So, congratulations, Ryan. Thank you. If you'll notice in your program, we had a different, I don't know what we call that. It was a special club recognition. That was not Raya. She was supposed to be on this afternoon, but it was for Ottawa County. But now I'm not going to say this, Lynn, because Judy and I have checked, and I might have, Ottawa County is my neighboring county. And before we do any more with the appreciation, we're going to make sure that their 75th anniversary is in 2013 or 2014, because according to our records, Judy said it was 1939, and that makes it 2014. So I could have made a typo error when I was doing it. So we'll wait for that. Maybe even they have a tribute to women. Maybe Marilyn will let us do something special for her there just for a minute. So we're not going to do that right now. So that's the reason we put Raya in there now. So anything else?
We were so lucky to have Justice French here today, and she is at a trap shoot down in Hamilton County. And she says she fully expects to be the winner. It's a big fundraiser that they have down there that she had committed to. She also said that she hopes everyone pays attention to what is going on with our Supreme Court right now. There is some suggestions that some of it be changed. And just from my viewpoint, and please don't take this as hers, this is my viewpoint, we are Ohio Federation of Republican Women, and we try to get Republicans elected, and they're trying to take, or considering taking, if I'm correct, Republican and Democrat out of the Supreme Court races totally. So that's why I'm urging all of you to kind of pay attention to this and know what's going on. And you know, we need to have some kind of an idea of what our Supreme Court justices, what their base values are, and what they'll be basing their decisions on. Right. And I think a party affiliation is a very good way to at least get some indication of where their loyalties may lie and where their viewpoints on life may be. So anyway, I'm sorry to digress off of that, but Justice Kennedy did want to give her viewpoints. And did you have anything else? She was just kind of filling time for us earlier very graciously while we were all over there getting our baths and everything together and our get together. Did you have anything else you'd like to say to us now? Or?
No, but I'm always happy to answer. I'm always happy to answer questions. If you have questions about the court and what's happening, the specific, I guess the proposal that was put forward the other day by the Chief Justice was an opportunity to raise some questions about judicial elections. And many people believe that they should be completely nonpartisan. We are the only state that has a partisan primary and then a nonpartisan general election for judges and justices. And a discussion point that Chief Justice O'Connor put forward was having nonpartisan primaries for justices and judges. Yes.
I think we should go the other way. I think that it's hard for people who are not really involved in knowing about the judiciary. I think it's helpful to have a party affiliation. I think we should go all political. People should know. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, that is certainly one point of view. Yes.
I know judges, when they're running, cannot come out and ask for money, and they have a limitation. Can you go over that rule so we will know how to support you?
What an excellent question. Yes, I appreciate that. The rules for judges and justices are very different. For example, even though I'm on the court now, I was just appointed on January 1, I will be on the ballot next year in 2014. I can't raise money until January. I can't begin to raise money. There is a distinct point of time where judges and justices, when they can raise money. It starts from the election year, and then once your election year is over, you can't raise money at all. So we have a very short window. All judges and justices have a very short window of when we can raise money, which is different from other candidates. That's why you see the annual trap shoot fundraiser or a golf outing every year, because all the other candidates can keep raising money, but ours is a very short window. Because I am only allowed to ask for money in groups of 20 or more. So if this were my campaign year, I could ask this group as a whole for money, because there are more than 20, but I would never ever be able to ask you as an individual for money. I would not be able to solicit from you. And so the way we set up our campaigns for the local candidates, what typically happens is you'll have a campaign committee or a finance committee, and those are very typically lawyers. You might have 30 people on a committee, and then they can ask you to donate to a judge, an individual candidate. For justices, we tend to hire somebody. We tend to hire a fundraiser who then gets a percentage or a monthly wage, for doing that kind of fundraising. But the limits, we do have very low limits, depending on I'm not gonna be able to remember, for the municipal, common pleas, court of appeals, and Supreme Court all have different limitations. So you might only be able to give, for example, to a court of appeals judge about $1,100 would be the absolute maximum that an individual could give. For the Supreme Court, I believe it's around $3,000 that an individual could give. Now keep in mind that these campaigns are generally $1 million campaigns to run statewide. I mean, you all know how many media markets there are around the state. So you're looking at trying to get on TV or get your message out on radio or in paper. So it can be a big challenge, both for statewide justices to run and also your local judges. If they're running countywide, or for your court of appeals judges, many of you are in the districts where they might have 14 counties. The biggest in Lima has 17 counties that they have to run in. So you can imagine they don't go on TV, they do mailings typically. So it is a little bit, they make it vague. Our rules make it much more difficult. It's intentional to make it more difficult to raise money. And there aren't limitations in terms of individuals who can give, but we can't receive corporate money. We can receive organizations money, political action committee money, we can receive PAC money, and law firms can give money, law firms as a whole. So it can be a challenge. You know, I mentioned very briefly before, most people can tell you, they can verbalize for you what they want in a governor. And they can see, they know that they want a governor who will share their vision for Ohio. But when you think about it, once the governor implements a program, it's a judge, it's a court who's going to decide whether that program is lawful or not. It's a judge or a justice who's going to decide the limitations of the powers that the governor has. And the same for a legislator. When you work really hard to get your legislators elected, remember too that it's the Supreme Court that's going to decide whether that law is constitutional or decide what that law really means. So in order to protect your other votes, it's the judges and justices who also need protection. We're the backstop for the laws that get enacted or the policies that get implemented. So work that you do to help the judges and the justices is critically important to help protect the other officials that you've elected. So I hope you can be a voice. I hope you can be a voice for judges and justices to just tell people not only who the candidates are, but how important it would be to elect the judges and justices to keep the judicial system the way that we want it. Yes, I'm happy to answer questions all morning.
We've got a few minutes here.
My question is, okay, you were talking about the money limits. When did they decide the money amounts, and should that be updated because of it's been that many years?
Oddly enough, it gets updated every year. They do up it by, I think it goes by the Consumer Price Index. So it does get, so that's even with the updates. That's with the updates that it gets, that they do get. That's why you end up with funny limits like $1,150 or something. Yes?
Why has this issue come up? Whose idea was this
Good
to bring
question.
this issue up now?
Good question. Well, especially, last year was the kind of year where we had a number of very familiar names on the ballot for judges and justices. And the Bar Association, which is the organization for lawyers, representing lawyers around the state, they are particularly concerned about having the races for judges be political as opposed to merit-based, or what they would see as quality-based. And the concern, and I would say that it's not just among lawyers, I mean, you all know it too, it's hard to keep track of who the judges are. In part because we don't have the party label on the ballot, but also because there are so many of us. I mean, for those of you in the bigger counties, we have 17 common pleas judges. I was on a race in 2004 where you could have 22 people walk into a room and all of them were either judges or judicial candidates. So sometimes our numbers are a little overwhelming. So because you don't have a party label, because most of you have probably never been in a courtroom as a party or had very limited access or connection with the judicial system, so you don't have personal knowledge, because these are sometimes lower dollar races, sometimes what you have is a name. And what I hear often is, I just vote for all the women. Well, I love that, and I benefit from that, but I understand that that is not real quality, knowledgeable voting. You know, really, when I'm running for office, what I really want all of you to know is how much I care about my job, and that I work very hard, and I care deeply about the cases that we hear. But even if I get you to know and respect me, that does me no good unless you know my name. And so you know, the Judge Judy, that works for me. Remember, the name French, you know, you can do a lot of different things with that. So that's where the concern came from, was how do we make people more, how do we get more information? And this was just one, it's a way, it's an issue to bring up. If the Chief Justice were here, she would say, I know that there are differences of opinion about this. I want to raise these topics for discussion. And it was one of, I think, 8 or 9 points that she raised to try to get this issue out there. One thing would be, let's have all judges and justices run in the odd years. And so you're not so overwhelmed by all of the other campaign information. What if we had the judicial offices first on the ballot? There's a huge drop off. I think it's 25% of the voters who don't vote for the judicial candidates. So that was just one of many opportunities for discussion. Maybe there could be a centralized voter guide for all of the judges across Ohio and all of the judicial candidates, so you could go one place to find all the information that you would need. For example, an online voter guide. So all of those kinds of things. I think there's even going to be a website that's going to be created where you can both express an opinion and get information out, or you know, pose an idea that you have as well of how do we get people more informed about judges and judicial candidates and make the voters more educated. And that's really the point. That's what all of this is about, is to get to keep the good quality that we have and make that quality better and make you aware of it.
So at this point, there's no effort
not at all
to make it nonpartisan?
No, not at all. These are points of discussion. I am also a member of the Constitutional Modernization Commission that was created last year, and that's an effort where the commission as a whole, with both legislative members and public members, will be going section by section in the entire Ohio Constitution over a period of probably the next 8 years or so, to systematically review and make recommendations to the legislature about getting some constitutional changes. So anything related to judicial elections, whether it's merit selection or something else, could also be part of what the commission is doing. But no, this is not on the ballot. The Chief Justice raised this at a lunch I attended in front of hundreds of lawyers. I know for many of you that would just be a terrible thing. But it was an annual convention of the Bar Association, and she was very careful to say, I am raising this to create discussion. So the great thing is, it has created some discussion out there about judicial elections.
Well, people don't vote. It wouldn't matter if the judges were listed at the top of the ballot. I've had many people over my adult life tell me, I don't usually vote for judges. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they believe. I might as well take my chances. And so that's the issue. And at least if I know you're a Republican and I know this guy's a Democrat, I can struggle with which one I'm going to vote for.
That's where slate cards come in.
Yes.
So your local parties get those slate cards out, but those slate cards typically just go to the registered Republican voters, or what we might call soft Democrat voters. And so that's where the fundraising for the judges comes in, that we need the ability to get our voice out, to make people aware of who we are. I would love to speak to every single voter if I could, and that's always the goal, is to speak to as many people as we can. But that's where all of you also come in with your organizations and the work that I know you're already doing to get those names out there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Probably given half a chance, we could keep her here for an hour with more questions. I know as she talked, more came to my mind. Justice Judy, we do have a couple gifts here for you for being here.
Woohoo. So please don't go with alcohol.
And I have to tell you, the wine is compliments of Miami County. However, it's from a vineyard in Dark County. It's a very popular rodeo red from the Versailles winery. So we hope you enjoy it. And I think they're ready for lunch. And I also see Chairman Borges just came in. So just in time. And please enjoy your lunch. You don't have to listen to the introduction. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Honorable Joanne Davidson. Joanne currently serves as one of 3 representatives from the state of Ohio to the Republican National Committee, and as chairman of the Ohio Casino Control Commission. She is nationally respected civic and political leader who made history as the state's first woman Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives. Additionally, she served as co-chair of the Republican National Committee from 2005 to 2009, where she also chaired the 2008 Republican National Convention. Big job. She is founder of the Joanne Davidson Ohio Leadership Institute, which is an 8-month annual program designed to encourage and train women, business, and civic leaders to assume more prominent roles, elected or appointed, in government and the Republican Party. She started her political career as the first woman to serve on the Reynoldsburg City Council, where she spent 10 years. She followed this with 20 years of service in the Ohio House of Representatives, where she served 5 of those years as Speaker. In addition, Joanne has extensive experience in the private sector. Prior to 1994, she worked as Vice President of Special Programs for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Joanne holds honorary Doctor of Law degrees from Ohio University and Capital University, an honorary degree in government leadership from the University of Findlay, and good timing, Joanne. And an honorary Doctor of Public Administration degree from the Ohio State University. She serves on the Board of Trustees of the Ohio State University, University of Findlay, and Franklin University. She formed her own consulting firm, JAD & Associates, and is currently doing consulting work on a broad range of issues involving public policy, development and analysis, strategic planning, and political campaigns. And all I have to say is when you read all of this and you look at Joanne, she must have been a real child prodigy and started at about age 3. Please join me in welcoming Joanne Davidson.
I appreciate being invited to share a few thoughts with you at your spring luncheon today. And want to start out with making an apology on behalf of Betty Montgomery. Betty got tangled up in her travel arrangements to get back here for the program this afternoon, coming from Florida, so she asked me if I would express her regrets. And so I've tried to incorporate some of my remarks, some of the things that I know that she would talk about if she were going to be with us. Also pleased to be here with the new chairman-elect of the Ohio Republican Party, Borges, who he's going to tell us all about what's happening in the Republican Party, plans ahead, because as you know, regardless of what's on my biography, my real love is politics and the Republican Party. And I'm going to talk a little bit about leadership. I understand you've been talking a lot about that at your conference, and I noticed that we have a number of women in the room who our paths have crossed in years past. And I wanted to kind of try to explain to you why I have such a passion for helping Republican women with leadership training. As many of you know, we have a Leadership Institute, which is in its 13th year. We have some of the esteemed grads of that institute who are with us today. A number of them are here that have gone through the program. And so when you stop and think about what we're trying to do, we're really trying to reach out to Republican women and basically say, you have all of the leadership skills, we need you at the community level, we need you at the state level, we need you at the national level, because frankly, there's just not enough Republican women out there that are seeking positions and appointed positions as well as elected positions. And I want to just explain to you a little bit my background so you'll have some understanding why I have such a strong interest in this. And Betty is also the chairman of the board of the Institute, Betty Montgomery, and so we get to work together on doing that. And when we come back from Washington next week, and a week there for our class, a few days there for graduating, we will now have to have 245 Republican women from 64 counties in the state of Ohio that have gone through the program. So just putting it out there for any of you thinking about that, you can certainly find out more information about it. But I started out running for office lots of years ago, but I was a little older than 3, big man. In fact, I probably didn't really have an interest in doing that until I lived in a new community for a period of time. Spent a lot of time like all of you do, actually helping to elect people to city council. When I was living in Reynoldsburg, it was then a village, and then it went to a city status. So as you know, you get restructured, you have council members, and so I spent a lot of time electing my friends and good Republicans to city council. I wasn't always pleased, frankly, with how they were fulfilling their responsibilities, and so one day I got this great idea, why don't I try to elect myself? Let's see, I'm putting up the signs, and I'm posting the copies, and I'm doing the door-to-door, and I'm making the phone calls, so I tried to run for office. And that was a very interesting experience for me. And understand, this goes back to 1965. Long time before many of you in this room were born. Now, there was not much out there to help a woman candidate. And quite frankly, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of encouragement within the Republican Party. But, I went through that campaign, and I lost. Won a primary, lost a general election, and you get up after that. I had kids in school. It was very difficult for them to go to school the next day and, basically face all their kids that were taunting them about that. But after you dust yourself off a little bit, you think, well, I survived that. And so I think the one statement that you will hear Betty make a lot is defeat is not fatal. So remember that. So I decided, well, what the heck? If I'm going to do this again, I'm going to build myself a support group. So I organized a federated Ohio Republican Women's Club in my home city of Reynoldsburg. That club has been operating for a number of years, through good times, through bad times. But when I ran again in 2 years, they were there to help me, and I built a support group, and it's very essential, particularly as a woman candidate, to have that. So I was able to be successful in that. And I think that one of the things that you find in doing that is that you really can make a contribution. But also I had early experiences when I later then moved on to run for the Ohio legislature, to end up being the campaign chairman for the House Republicans. And I did that from 1985 actually to 2000. And one of the things I learned in that job, because I was determined that we were going to expand, at the time we had at one time 3 Republican women members of the Ohio House of Representatives. And that's just totally unacceptable. So I spent a long time trying to go around and recruit women to run. So, drive all over the state, people would give me names of women who might make good candidates. And I found out very quickly that there are generally 3 reasons that women don't run. One of them is legitimate, and 2 of them are not. So I will take them in the reverse order. They don't think they're qualified. That is not a legitimate argument. I'm looking around the room, and I know some of the positions that many of you are serving in, positions you have served in. I know the leadership you're providing in your county, and I know all of the things that you do in your community, whether it's involved with your church or the Girl Scouts or whatever. And so that's the kind of experience that you need in elected government. The second reason is you're afraid to take a risk. And that's a big reason. I spent a lot of time recruiting a woman who was very well qualified, had all the attributes to make a good candidate.
And the last thing she said to me, if you can guarantee I'll win, I'll run. And I apologize to the Institute members because they've heard these stories before. And so you can't guarantee anybody that you are going to, that you're going to win. So you have to be willing to take a risk. And that risk taking is just not in running for elected office. It's really whatever you do and being involved in the community or even in your professional life. And then when I got to be in elected office for the first time, I'd sat around the council table on Monday nights. I learned some of the things that I guess I will pass on to you. First of all, I learned that if you're the best prepared person in the room on a particular issue, if you've actually opened your packet, city council notes, and what's going to be the agenda, and looked at the rezonings or the annexations or the ordinances, you had a long way to carry the public policy because you were better prepared than they were. And so it's kind of like the scout model, be prepared. And then it also was a thing that taught me that you have to, you really have to have a Teflon skin. Because if you take everything personally, pick up your marbles and go home, that's what they want you to do. Now, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and where I learned the importance of that is that they would taught me so much at the dinner table sometimes that I would leave before dessert was served. When I finally caught on that they were doing that at that timing so they could eat my dessert, I just stayed it up. But that is very true, because if you get offended by that, and I'm not saying you go to every fight people invite you to, I think you pick them very carefully. But the situation is you've got to stick it out, and you've got to let some of this wash over you, because I can remember some very dignified zoning attorney from Columbus that came out to Reynoldsburg and, challenged my right to vote on the committee because he thought I was the secretary of the city council rather than a member. He is no longer with us, but he used to. I didn't do anything. But his office, when I then moved to my office downtown, his office was in the same office building, so I used to see him in the elevator all the time, and I kind of chuckled about it a little bit. But the reason that I feel that we need more women there is because we need your viewpoint, we need your experiences, we need what you have learned from the practical things that you do as a homemaker, as a mother, as a daughter. All of the things that influence so much of what's going on in government today. And if we don't have the women's point of view, it's helping to make those decisions, helping to draft that public policy, helping to really guide their community, then you really don't, we're really not being fair to what's the majority group of voters in the United States, which is women. And I can remember talking in Reynoldsburg to the recreation director and saying, we need to establish a senior center in Reynoldsburg, because many of us were in the age that parents were moving there to be closer to their families, and we didn't have anything. And he said, I don't think that, we necessarily need that. And he said, you're going to have to show me more proof than that. So I went out, recruited 10 seniors, started programs. 3 months later, he decided that maybe we could have a senior center. But those are the kind of things that are really important out there to the well-being of your community. And I think that we need to encourage women of all ages. I think a lot of people will say, I'm too old, I shouldn't do that now. The one legitimate excuse that women have, it's not the right time in my life. And many times it's not, because family responsibilities that you have, other issues you have, maybe just beginning a job. But the door of opportunity doesn't open all of the time. And sometimes you kind of have to basically say, I'm not sure I'll get this chance to do this again, but I should try to take this opportunity right now. I feel kind of funny talking to this group about leadership, because I know in one way or the other you're all in leadership positions, that you're out there doing something in your county, doing something in your club, probably doing something in a community organization, anything you're doing. But I'm doing that because I feel so strongly about Republican women stepping forward much more and taking that risk and seeking to be a leader in their own community. thing because it's not the most interesting thing they want to do. But you always learn something from doing that. Every opportunity teaches you something. You might say after it's over, I'm not going to do that again. But then at least you know why you're not going to do that again, okay? But I think that opportunity, and I look back, frankly, on my elected office, my first elected office, a local office, and I think of how much I learned just getting into the local issues and the things that are important, and I never realized when that was going on how valuable that would be to me in my later opportunity to serve in the Ohio House of Representatives. So it is something that opens the door for you. It is something that helps you to build your skills, your leadership skills, and anything that you take a leadership in, whether it's just, being the chairman of who's going to provide the coffee and cookies at the next meeting, because that means you're in contact with other people, you're performing a very important service. And then the one other thing that women do is we wait to be asked. You have to kind of go in their front door, knock on the door, sit down and talk to them, ask them if they consider running for office, give them the pros and cons, pledge support to them and keep the pledge after you do that. But they have to be asked. Now, any one of you tell me, all due respect to our two gentlemen that are here today, whether a gentleman has to be asked to run for office. We basically know that maybe it is in their agenda as they grow up, that at some particular point in time, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. But you want to be asked. And I think that, I suppose that if I hadn't have been so discouraged in my home community and decided I'd ask myself to run, that I might have been in that same situation. So don't ask. Don't ask. Find out what it takes to do it and put yourself forward. And also, there are all sorts of opportunities in appointed office. I mean, Governor Casey has been very supportive of appointing women in office. And there's so many things that you can get appointed to at the local level, at the county level, at the state level. And if you just look at the appointments, many of you I know have been received some appointments out there to some community college boards and other types of things. All of that is really important to building your own confidence, your own understanding of these particular issues in doing that. Sometimes the Republican Party are not always the best people to ask. And sometimes I think you have to be a little bit more aggressive, particularly in some counties. Our county chairman here in Franklin County learned a long time ago that it's easier to elect a woman candidate than it is to elect a man in some instances. So frankly, this is true. Justice French well understands that it is easier. But in some of your other counties, that may not be the case. And it may not be that you've got somebody who is open to that. And so sometimes you have to find, if you can't go in the front door, find a side door to go in. Find a position that you can get in that really opens up people to who you are and what you can accomplish. And then it begins a little recognition here. Well, we're looking for somebody. I know this person, and they've not run for public office, but maybe they would do that. Or I often get a call from, the governor's office and basically say, we're looking for a woman to appoint to this position. Can you give us any ideas? Well, what experience do you want? Well, they have to be an attorney. Well, that narrows it down. So I can sift through these 245 women that we have now in the system and pick out 8 or 10 names to give of people and give them a little bit of the background of what this person is, and what we're trying to do is to be a system in which we let people know of your interest in serving in that position. Get out and be involved in some other kind of campaign activities too. I think that people say to me, well, how do I get involved in a campaign? And my answer is you just show up. If you are a volunteer, if you show up at a campaign, Jane probably knows that case right over here. If you just show up at a campaign, about the second or third time that you show up, well, they want you to be volunteer chairman. If you show up 4 or 5 times, then they want you to be in charge of the phone bank, or they want you to do this, or they want you to do that. But people kind of hang back and they don't do it. And so if you're interested in being a campaign, find out what they're doing
And Matt Borges has a great story, maybe he will tell you about just showing up, and how he actually got involved in campaigns. There are also a lot of opportunities in political party leadership. We have probably more women becoming chairman across the state right now than we've had in a long time. It used to be very unusual. I always wanted to be on the Franklin County Republican Central Committee. When I was just getting started out in Reynoldsburg, and I thought, you know, I moved into Franklin County some years ago. I called up my committeeman, and I basically said I want to be involved in the party, and God bless him, he asked me to work at the polls. That's when we were doing night shifts at the polls. That wasn't a very good thing to do. But when I moved to Reynoldsburg, I kind of tried to do the same thing. Well, there was only one woman. Now this is Franklin County, you know how big it is. There was only one woman on the Central Committee back then, and she happened to be in my community. And there was not any way, she was a wonderful person. She had no way she was going to give up that seat, but I kept an eye on it, and I think someday, sometime, there will be an opportunity for me to go on the committee, and it worked out. I had an opportunity to do that. But you really do need to seek those opportunities and be a leader in the party, and you know, in any position, because even if you know, it's a ward leader, maybe Matt will talk a little bit about precinct captains that we'll be looking for, and how we're kind of do better what we have always known how to do, and that's a strong grassroots outreach program in the Republican Party as we get into 14 and into look forward to 16. Somebody came up to me recently and asked me a question that I wasn't quite sure, kind of caught me a little bit off guard, and she said, how did you get to be the co-chairman for the Republican National Committee? Which forced me to stop and think. I got to be chairman of the Republican National Committee for only one reason, is that I was one of the women division chairman for the Bush campaign in 2004. I got to know some of the people that were involved. I had just been a recent new member from Ohio on the Republican National Committee. There were 168 members in that committee. I knew 2, Bob Bennett being one of them. So, but I got a call from people in Washington, they're close to the president. I said, we'd like you to run for co-chairman for the Republican National Committee. I can't do that. I said, I'm telling you, I was saying the same thing. I have not experienced. I said, well, you know, frankly didn't want to move to Washington, D.C., but finally decided that maybe I should practice what I preach, which is the door of opportunity goes through. You know, you try to, the door opens, you try to go through. So I obligingly called 166 people around the country, introducing myself, asking them if they would support me, you know, for co-chair. None of whom I knew. Some of them had to get the timelines because some of them were in Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands or other places, and it was a real experience. One thing I will say, and I think this speaks well for the entire Republican Party, when I basically could say that Bob Bennett is supporting me, most of them basically said, if Bob's for you, that's fine. Thank you for the call. Wow. So it helps a lot when you have, you know, people like that that step out and support you. Many times people think leadership is all about a title. Well, a lot of good leaders get elected or get appointed and have titles. But leadership is not about a title, because a title will not make you a good leader. But being a good leader will help you to get a title if that's what you want. But I think that's something that we forget. We kind of get it backwards a little bit. But if you have the leadership skills, if you display those skills, if you work hard, if you're interested in it, you will have those opportunities. You know, we always think also, and Mr. Justice would have time to tell her story, we always feel that it's easier for other people. And you look at people in leadership positions and you say, well, somebody helped them get there. Well, sure, somebody helps all of us that have an opportunity to do some of those things to get there. But you also, frankly, it's not easy for anyone. When one of our classes at the Institute, we usually have Cheryl Cookie speak, Cheryl Kruger. Most of you, did you hear?
She's coming to our group Wednesday nights.
Good, that is wonderful, that is really wonderful. But she's got a great story of how she started this cookie business. You know, she started it in her own kitchen, and she financed it on a credit card.
because she couldn't get any, she couldn't get any financial support there. And so she was running these huge balances on her credit card. She said, I didn't know whether I was ever going to be able to get it paid off. But she believed in what she was doing. She was willing to take a risk and look at the company that she's now obviously built and been able to sell off at the moment. But I think about that and I think here's one person who can actually create that when they're willing to take that risk. Before I give you, how many of you have ever heard Gordon Gee do, 10 top things? Have you any of the banquets? Well, this is Gordon Gee. He always wants, he always has 10 things he wants to give. Before I give you those 10, and some of these will be Betty's, I want to talk about something that is absolutely critical in this. You don't realize how important relationships are. You just don't realize it until you bump into a situation in which that relationship makes the difference between whether you're going to get considered for this, whether you're not going to get considered, whether somebody can open a door for you, whether they can't open a door. But those relationships are invaluable. And as much as we have great speakers at our Leadership Institute, the best thing that comes out of that Leadership Institute is the relationships that you build with the other women that are in it. I think Lynn would confirm that. The two Cathys here would confirm that. And certainly, Linda, you would, that's true because they then remain those kind of contacts. And they are important. I went out to Hollywood, which is not some place I like to go, with Bob Bennett. Matt Borges was out there. I went out with one of our great finance people, who some of you may know, Jim Dickey. And so we went out for the RNC meeting. And it was funny because I walked into the hotel, all went up to check in, but everybody went to different standards. And I checked in, there was a young man, he looked at me and he said, I used to work for you. And then he told me that, and I remembered him, that he said, I was in the political department of the Republican National Committee, and then he said, I'm going to see if I can get you a nice room up on the 20th floor that looks out over Hollywood. You know where the story's going, don't you? So it looks over the Hollywood, you look out your window, you see the Hollywood sign there up on the hill. I have to tell Matt the story, I don't think. So we all get our room keys.
I was overlooking the parking garage.
So we all get in the elevator, and the elevator stops on the 8th floor, and Bob gets off, and Jim Dickey is getting off. They're holding the door for me, and I said, oh, I'm going up to the toilet. I said, it's all knowing the person who's checking you in. Remember that. That is very key. If you know the person, and that can make a huge difference in many ways. So I felt kind of bad about it, but not too bad. All right, let me close with some of the things that I think I just want to stress. And I've already talked about being the best prepared person that's in. The only way I survived as Speaker of the Ohio House of Representatives was being better prepared than anybody else and knowing more about what was in a piece of legislation that somebody wanted to discuss with me than they did. If I had not taken time and worked very long hours to be able to do that, people didn't have much confidence in a woman doing that job anyway. The question, the big headline was, can't she govern type of thing. Well, the only way I've ever really been able to do any of my jobs is just to be better prepared. Take time to be prepared, learn about the issue. I used to go out and drive around properties that we were going to rezone or property we were going to annex and do that. So if there's one probably thing at well, there's two things. That's number one. The other one is number two. Take the side door, as I mentioned before, if you can't come through the front door. There's lots of ways to skin a cat out there. Sometimes it takes you a while to figure out which way to do it, but it generally works. If you can, to the extent possible, be a team player. That is so important in today's ability to govern, is having people that will be part of a team and know what it means to be part of a team and be supportive of each other, even where sometimes, it's not exactly like you like everything to go. But when we wonder right now why government grinds to a halt, quite frankly, it is because people in many instances have forgotten how to be a member of a team. Be persistent. If you get turned down once, I think Justice French is a very good example. She knew I was going to say that, didn't she? A very good example of being persistent. because she had wanted to run for the Supreme Court. She stepped back and didn't run because it was probably an appropriate move to make at that particular time. But she'd show up, I'd go around the state to a Wednesday dinner, Judy would be there. And she has been persistent, and there's a wonderful story about her that I won't tell, but I want to ask you later, I'll tell you about. I was in the U.S. Supreme Court when she argued the voucher case for the state of Ohio. And I guess I'll tell a little bit of it, and then I'll get off here.
I love the story.
All right. So we're at the Supreme Court. This is a huge case, you understand. This was, everybody had been trying to find a voucher legislation that could go up to the Supreme Court. And so Ohio's was the case that was chosen for the Supreme Court. And Betty Montgomery was Attorney General, and Judy worked for Betty Montgomery. And frankly, I got some calls from groups around the country urging me to talk to Betty about hiring outside counsel to do this argument, because it was such an important case. And there were so many people. I mean, the whole issue of choice in education rested on this case. And Betty said, I've got competent people, I'm not going to do that. But we did come up with a good idea, I thought. Ken Starr, who many of you know, actually has been always a strong supporter of vouchers and certainly in charter schools. So, and we had met Ken. We didn't know him well, but we had met him. So we just, Betty called him and asked him whether he would sit second chair. Well, Ken Starr is a nationally, internationally known attorney. And we're asking him if he was sit second chair, or Betty was anyway. I was backing her up, you know, it's a great thing for you to do. And he graciously agreed to do that. And so he worked with Judy on that case. But I was in the court when she argued the case. And it was, you know, she as you know, I get accused of this too, stuff good. But so here she is up before the Supreme Court, and she starts the argument. And I had never seen a case before the U.S. Supreme Court before, but I think she went about 11 minutes before they interrupted her with a question. Pardon?
It was a long time.
It was a long time. I mean, so she gave the bulk of her argument before she got interrupted. When the other side gave their argument, they had a bombastic male attorney for the National Education Association, I think. And he just started out with this, you know, kind of a rant and a loud voice. I think he went 30 seconds before he got a question. And from there on, he just totally lost the argument because, frankly, they just peppered him with questions. And so he lost the momentum in which Judy had been so careful to capture. And so it was a wonderful thing to watch someone like that to be able to do that. I always remember that. Okay, I'm back to my list here, and then we're going to finish up. Be persistent. You know, I was hurt by losing my first election, but I could have just called back in the home and said, well, forget that. Women are not yet acceptable to public office. Don't be afraid to fail. You got to take that risk. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to run because you think you could lose. Because as Betty says, you know, there's nothing that's fatal about that. Be sincere. There's so many people in the political arena today that are really not sincere about what they want to do. They may see it as a stepping stone to other things out there rather than being sincere in their interest in what people care about and good public policy. Build your own public speaking comfort level. That's one of the things that we find is the most important thing in the Institute, because some people are scared to death to actually speak publicly. And I remember one time that one of our members came up, and we have an exercise, they have to come up and do a 2-minute speech. And so they get filmed and they get critiqued, and Linda's laughing over here. But this one girl, she was shaking so bad that the whole rostrum was shaking. It was a standing rostrum. But it's very, very important to be able to have some level of comfort in doing that. Be sensitive to other people's opinions. I have to lecture myself. I should stencil that on my refrigerator door. Be sensitive to other people's opinions. Because sometimes when we've been around this for a long time, we have very strong opinions, and we forget that not everybody agrees with us, and we're so busy trying to defend our own opinion that we really don't listen to theirs. And help others. Sometimes women don't get a very good review for helping other women. Sometimes you've got women that get in a position And, you know, they're not gonna reach down a hand to help somebody else up that's coming in that. We tried very hard to do that through the Institute, to help each other, to be supportive of each other, and to encourage them. And then the last one goes with the first one. Work hard. I think I probably should tell them the 4 things, my 4 rules, right? First time I ran for office, I went to the library, couldn't find much about being a woman candidate. One little book, one little tiny chapter, maybe 3 pages in the chapter. But I remember the rules. One is you have to think like a man. You have to work like a dog. You have to act like a lady, and you have to look like a girl. I didn't get to the last one, I had a little trouble in the last one on that one. But it's even got carried on that someone was having it embroidered and giving it to other people as wedding gifts. Or as baby gifts out there on this, because it is true. And I've seen it now here with some other friends, so other people must have read it. So just think of that. It offends you a little bit, thinking like a man. Working like a dog, we already know what that means. Acting like a lady, we know that too. Looking like a girl, well, we do the best we can. Thanks very much.
Of getting your name on a bill. This just, I think, is the one thing that has always stuck in my mind that I've heard Joanne talk about, and then let's just give her a huge round of applause. While she's here, while I have the mic, I'm going to give her a little thank you from us for being here. But this, I think you'll all appreciate how Joanne will keep after something, and it's just.
Well, it got to be an irritation for both Betty and myself that when you introduce legislation in the legislature, that the clerk's office would always call us and say, are you a Miss, a Ms., or a Mrs.? But the guys, they would put their name on as Senator Barnes, Representative Allen, whatever it was. But on the women, no. So we would have an argument with the clerk's office, and they would say, well, that's been the tradition in Ohio, that we not do that. And so, thankfully, we just went to the leadership and said, unless you want to be embarrassed, do something about it, because if you don't, we're going to introduce legislation to change it, and people are going to say, what do you mean? You're a representative, you're not, you may be a Ms. or Miss or Mrs., but you're also a representative, and you've got to put women's names on that way too. They changed the rule.
Joanne, thank you so much for coming, and do you have time for a couple questions? Does anybody have some questions you'd like to ask of Joanne while she's here? We must have had lunch. We're all quiet. This morning we were loaded.
I just wondered about the number of women in the legislature, and specifically about that. How do we get more women in the legislature?
So the question is, how do we get more women in the legislature? I thought with term limits that would open the door for more women in the legislature, but it hasn't. Because a lot of people that have been there would be stepping down, and there'd be, a chance to. We're probably right about. We dipped for a while, but we're probably right about now, about 24%. And we've never been above that. We may have been at 25, 1%, at one time, but we never got above that. And I had a number of opportunities, because my last year there was when term limits was going in, and so a lot of people were leaving early. So I had a lot of opportunities to actually, for the Congress to make some appointments. But in that particular district, there really wasn't a woman who had the credentials of, that you could make a strong argument that they were the best person for it. Or if they had the credentials, they wouldn't step up and apply, to be appointed. So the only way we're going to get more women in, we just got to get more women running.
And, you know, you're not gonna get there any other way. And as I said, I think that making that impression, I know that Speaker Batchelder, Senator Faber are very supportive of that. The House now is pretty good. The Senate is, as far as Republican women in the Senate, there are 2, I believe.
Peggy and Shannon?
Yeah, so they're all, no, there's 3,
Gail
Shannon,
Manning.
and
Gail
yeah,
Manning.
so there's 3 now out of 33, but there are a number of Democrat women. And so we've just, you know, part of it, and then our representation of the congressional level is dismal, as far as Republican women across the country is concerned. Picking up a little bit in the 12 election, picked up a few more women, but we've gotta get more people interested in doing that, positioning themselves at the local level. You don't necessarily have to be in local office to run. It helps a lot if you've had a stepping stone to do that, to be able to do that, because Mary Ann Rule was county auditor, I think, over in Knox County, was it, before she ran. So most of the people that come in and had some local government experience are coming up through the system, but it takes a while to do that. So get out there and run for office. Yes.
It seems like the prerequisite is to be an attorney, and what do you think about, you know, non-attorney legal background?
Well, I'm not an attorney, so naturally I think it's good. There are not nearly as many attorneys in the legislature as there used to be. Must have been about maybe 60% at one time of attorneys, but that's not the case anymore. It's, you know, it's people of all different professions, or just people that have been active in their county and involved in their community. You know, Chamber of Commerce, for instance. I know that we've got a great candidate coming up, I think, next year up in Mansfield, who's a Republican candidate, and not a woman, unfortunately, but, you know, all of those things make a difference out there to do that. But I think it's good to have some attorneys, particularly on a couple of the committees that deal with criminal and civil justice. I think it's important to do that. I had, frankly, some of the honor and the ability to actually appoint the first woman who was chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives, Anne Wilmer Benjamin, from Portage County. And people hadn't been given an opportunity, women, to chair this kind of committee. So Anne was an attorney, but we have few attorneys, but don't let that in here. And that's kind of not the case anymore.
We have one more, Joanne. Okay. Can you talk loudly?
I can talk loud.
Okay. I can hear you.
I want to say thanks for coming. You're so inspiring. I appreciate you talking to us, and I see that your passion for being a Republican and the Republican Party is just infectious. And I'd just like to know what would be the #1 thing you might tell us to unite us, because there's a whole lot of fracturing going on with different groups, and I'd like to figure out a way to help people come together as Republicans once again.
Well, we're all out, you know, we're all really after the same goal, which is to try to put good people in elected office to make public policy. Different people differ on some things. I think if we, and I was talking to just you about it, I think, who's going to be speaking next week. I said, you know, there are basic fundamental issues that make us Republicans, and it's how we feel about personal responsibility, and how we feel about, obviously, limited government, and how we feel about strong defense. So we need to concentrate on those issues that bring us together, not the issues that separate us. And I think if we can do that, I think that there's room for all sorts of opinions in the party. I'm a strong believer, frankly, in representative government. I think this government was established on the fact that representative government, which is you elect people who you have confidence in, that you know, that you believe will support your point of view, and then you send them there, and you know that they're going to get the information and the education and in the background of all of these issues that you're not going to have. And they're going to have it, and then you have to trust them to make the right decision. And if they don't make the right decision, you've got an opportunity to not re-elect them to that. But that's the way the government structure was set up, you know, to be that. So we're a republic, not a democracy in many instances, because that's the way the system has worked. And frankly, for us, it's worked pretty well for lots of years. Thanks.
Pleasure that I introduce Mr. Matt Borges, the newly elected chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. As a veteran participant and advisor to many successful political campaigns at the local, state, federal, and national level, he has built a strong political network throughout Ohio and the United States. Matt served as executive director for the Casey Taylor New Day Inaugural Committee and managed Dave Yo's successful campaign for Ohio State Auditor. Previously, he served as chief of staff and campaign manager for Treasurer of State Joseph Peters. He was also a legal representative for Senator John McCain and Sarah Palin's presidential bid in 2008 and acted as lead advance representative from 2001 to 2007 for the office of Vice President Dick Cheney. Additionally, he ran the successful 2010 primary bid for Bob Gibbs for Congress and consulted for the National Republican Congressional Committee in 1992, 2000, and 2010. One of Borges' primary jobs is to organize and strategize the state party election plan.
Hold on, we gotta turn the page.
Mr. Borges began his tenure with the Ohio Republican Party in 2012, serving as the executive director. On April the 26th, just 2013, just recently, Mr. Borges was elected by the State Central and the Executive Committee to serve as chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. Please join me in welcoming Ohio Republican Party Chairman Matt Borges.
Thank you very much. And do we have a time crunch here? Are we trying to get done by this time?
We have awards yet, I think we're doing fine, aren't we?
Okay. I promise not to take too long. I tend to go on too long sometimes with Joanne, because unfortunately, so I'll get some digits here. First of all, I want to thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure and an honor. And as you just heard, I was elected State Republican Party Chairman just a little over 2 weeks ago, and that has been a wonderful honor for me as well. My name is Matt Borges. I live here in Columbus. I live in Bexley, Ohio. I have a wife, 2 stepsons, and a daughter. The 2 steps are 17 and 15, and our daughter's 2. So it makes for some interesting times at home. I want to recognize a few people. First of all, Speaker Davidson, who has been a mentor and friend to me for many years and through this process. Of course, Lynn Bliss and Jean Turner and Judy Bullen, who's in our building every day, manning the OFRW offices, and we appreciate you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the 3 most important people in my life, not just the 3 most important women in my life, but the 3 most important people. My mother, who has always been there for me and given me so many opportunities. My wife, who truly changed my life and I love very much, and of course my daughter, who has been just wonderful to addition to our family, and the dynamic that she's added to our family has just been wonderful. As Speaker Davidson alluded to earlier about having these kinds of things on our agenda, this is something I never really would have imagined doing. Like even a year ago, when I raised my hand and said, "Can I go over to the state party and help?" We were in a pretty interesting situation with our state party at the time. As you may recall, there was a leadership fight. It was not the prettiest of things for the world to see, and I really felt like I could go over and help. I was dropped into right in the middle of a presidential campaign, and we got to work right away. One of the very pleasant experiences I had when I got there was getting to work with the Ohio Federation of Republican Women, one of our very important auxiliary groups, and we appreciate that partnership and commitment. And did Lena Walcott make it today? Did she was able to make it? I know she had hurt her wrist, and so I wanted to send out my best wishes to her. I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to make it. But we also have a representative from one of our newest clubs here, more excited about. We appreciate your efforts with the Young Republican Women of Cincinnati, a group of young professional women, and we thank you in advance for all the hard work that you'll be doing. Look forward to more events like yours around the state, and I'll be down there to meet with you sometime soon. Mary Ann Christie's also here, who's on our state committee, and where did Mary Ann go off to? She had to leave, unfortunately, that's too bad. She's a great representative of our party, and we're happy to have her. And also I want to say thank you, of course, to the women in this room who gave countless hours in 2012 of volunteer effort and support to our campaigns and to our candidates. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to have the successes that we did have in 2012. And too many times those tremendous efforts go unnoticed and go unthanked. And I want to make sure that from my perspective and from the Ohio Republican Party, we say thank you for all that you do and will continue to do. In 2012 was a very interesting political year, one unlike any that I can ever recall. And of course, we're certainly disappointed that we couldn't turn Ohio red for the presidential election, but there were some encouraging signs. We also were disappointed that we weren't able to win. We're going to see Josh Mandel succeed in his race for the United States Senate. But Ohio elected more Republicans than Democrats in 2012. Statewide. We picked up a seat in the Ohio legislature. We defended all of our seats in the Ohio Senate. We now have supermajorities in the Ohio House, Ohio Senate, and we control our congressional delegation 12-4. In the Ohio House, we elected new leaders like Stephanie Kunze from here in Franklin County, who is, as Joanne was speaking earlier about candidates and the profile of a candidate, and do you need to be an attorney or do you need, Stephanie has a very compelling personal story. She was the school secretary at her school in Hilliard, Ohio. And as many of you know, in a community like Hilliard, if you're the school secretary, you pretty much get to know everything. Everyone comes in at some point in time and they know you, and she also had a political bent. She was a conservative, and people started to get to know that, and they said, Stephanie, you should think about running for office sometime. So she ran for city council and she won. She ran for the Republican Central Committee. We got to know her through that process. And then when the opportunity came up, when we created a new legislative seat, we needed to win it. We asked Stephanie to step forward and run, and she did. We also had other encouraging signs across the state, places like Belmont County, where we carried the top of the ticket for the first time since 1972. In Scioto County, the home of Ted Strickland and Vern Wright, where a Republican now holds Vern Wright's old House seat. But of course, thank you for our friends from down there. And of course, our new vice chair, Kay Reynolds, is the co-chair of the Ohio Republican Party's vice chair, is the co-chair of Scioto County, and she's been doing a wonderful job. But of course, the story from 2012 is going to be the presidential election. John Kasich, Mary Taylor, and the rest of our Republican leaders couldn't have been working harder to help win that campaign. This thing? Not going to work? Okay. We knew it was at stake. There couldn't have been more at stake last year. And can you still hear me okay without being this close to the mic? Can you hear me okay? I know then, I believe then, as I do now, that the economy would have seen a drastic improvement if we had brought some certainty to Washington. We certainly wouldn't be dealing with the disturbing cover-up of Benghazi that we're looking at right now. I mean, can you believe this? Can you think of what would have happened? Compare this to Watergate. Compare this to other things we've been through. Again, it's never the crime, it's the cover-up. And the crime in Watergate was a petty break-in. This is a situation where 4 Americans were killed. And the cover-up, it appears, began immediately. And how about this very disturbing news that's coming out right now about the IRS targeting our Tea Party and Patriot groups. People who are committed to liberty and wanting to do the best things for our state and for our country, who are subjected to unfair practices that the IRS has now admitted to. And it really is disturbing. Again, can you imagine if this was MoveOn.org?
or if this was Planned Parenthood, or if this was some other organization that was being denied their tax exempt status, the media would be in total meltdown right now. Instead, we're barely hearing, starting to scratch the surface of this. We as Republicans, as a Republican family, need to stay on this. We cannot let the Democrats get away with these kinds of actions. They're not just insulting to our Tea Party brethren, to our good folks who serve, our government proudly. They're insulting to voters. They're insulting to Americans. We can't lose sight of what the difference between us and the Democrats is, and that's really the big issue and the big question. In 2009, we started doing everything we could to stop Obamacare from being implemented. Everything we possibly could. We elected a Republican House in Congress in 2010. We elected Mike DeWine. When I was on the road in 2010 working with Dave Yost and our other Republican candidates, the single biggest applause line that we got when we were out on the road was when Mike DeWine would say, "I'm going to join the federal lawsuit just to try to stop Obamacare." And he did that. He was elected and he did that. We took that to the Supreme Court, and very unfortunately, we lost by a single vote. And of course, then it came down to one thing: supporting our candidate for president, who had promised that on day one, if he were elected, he would begin the process of repeal of Obamacare. And unfortunately, we lost that too. Big government won. And I think that wasn't just a bad thing for our party. It was a bad night for the country when Barack Obama was sent back to the White House for 4 more years. And it wasn't just Ohio that we weren't able to carry for Mitt Romney. It was every swing state. From an electoral college standpoint, it really wasn't even close. Again, we're all left wondering why. What is it about our party? What is it about our message that's keeping us from winning these races? And the Democrats, of course, want you to believe that the election was just a confirmation of their desire to grow government, tax the rich, rebuke conservative principles across the board. I'm sure you've heard liberals in the media's constant reminders that the last election settled forever the notion of higher taxes on the rich, on immigration reform, on the future of the Republicans in general, and of course Obamacare. Many have concluded that losing to a president with historically low approval ratings, high unemployment, a spate of broken promises, and his famously vapid 2008 Hope and Change campaign were an indication that we had just picked the wrong candidate. I think that may be unfair, but we obviously have a lot of work to do in terms of how we're going to build this back up. The media wants to make a lot of noise right now about a fractured and divided party. Well, I see us all united by one thing. We want to win. We want to win again. There's a lot of different ideas about how we do that and about what challenges we need to address in order to get back to the point where we can win. But we're all frustrated because even though 2012 was a good year for a lot of Republicans in Ohio, we didn't win the most high-profile race, and perhaps one could argue the most important race. So many in our party, including me and Speaker Davidson and so many others, are trying to take a look at last year's election and discern what went wrong, hopefully, so that we don't repeat those mistakes again. And of course, as is the case with any presidential effort, and really any campaign, when you win, you're held up as having run this perfect effort. I know when I ran Dave Yost's campaign in 2010, going into Election Day, no one thought we were going to win. We all thought we had run a very poor campaign, and then we won, and all of a sudden it was, wow, what an unbelievable effort, congratulations. And when you lose, even if you run a good effort, everything's open to second guessing. And every decision is going to be exposed and overanalyzed. I mean, our messaging in 2012 was good, but it certainly could have been better. We were singularly focused on the economy. We weren't able to fend off Obama's criticism of Romney's position on the auto bailout. We didn't effectively expose Benghazi at the time, which was already, a burgeoning scandal as an administration failure and cover-up. And I don't know if you've seen recently news stories that the Romney campaign was ready to go with an ad campaign that the campaign itself decided not to move forward with. We were never able to escape the negative connotations of the 47% comment. Romney's position on immigration reform certainly scared off Latino voters. At least that's what the exit polls would have you believe, and I think that's probably true. I could go on and on. But instead, the campaign stayed focused on the economy. In states like Ohio, the economy was improving. So it was a curious decision, but one that they went forward with, and you know, we had to take a look at all of those things when, you know, as soon as the election was over, we began those conversations. And if you look at them all in toto and try to decide which one of those things kept us from winning, I don't think you could say there was any one of them. I think you'd have to say it was really partly all of them. And how we address those things moving forward is going to be an incredible challenge. Needless to say, and everybody realizes this now, the top of the ticket had an amazing problem, amazing challenge appealing to women voters. And to me, that's an issue entirely unto itself. When you're failing to appeal to women voters, your campaign has a macro problem. This isn't just an issue. We're not talking about a coalition here. We're talking about 52% of the voting population. And when you have problems appealing to 52% of the population, it's time to reevaluate just about everything. That's why organizations like yours are so important. That's why our partnership with the Ohio Republican Party is so important. We can't just have a bunch of white men sitting around working on how to solve these problems and how to face these challenges. Certainly, having been a white man for almost all of my life, I have no particular problem with white men. I'm just saying, we certainly recognize that we have to you know, get more voices in the room. And young voters, you know, again, it's another reason why an organization like RIAS is so important. We have to start appealing to young people. We have to start. President Obama was speaking at Ohio State commencement. Was it last Sunday? Less than a week ago? And of course he got universally glorious coverage. But he's speaking to a bunch of people who he has promised and he has appealed to at some level that he's going to help make their lives better. And the truth of the matter is most of the people leaving graduation that day don't know what they're going to do for a job. Everybody knows, you know, families who have children who are graduating from college and are really curious and concerned about what they're going to do next. They're leaving college with piles of mountains of student loan debt, and it's a real problem. It's unbelievable to me, and yet somehow it gets lost in our messaging, and we have to do a better job of refocusing that message and getting that across. Of course, there's been so much talk about campaign tactics. There's been volumes written on the technology gap, which I'm just going to tell you right now was a real thing in 2012. It was a real issue. You know, the role of social media has become so much more important now in campaigns. You know, almost maybe as important as traditional media. And I'm so glad that the OFRW has embraced social media and is utilizing 21st century technology to communicate your message, and congratulations on that, and we're thrilled to be a partner with you on that effort. At state headquarters, we got to work right away building a state-of-the-art database that we just never had before. Well, hopefully, I think working with our Silicon Valley partners and making a serious investment in how to do this properly, we'll be able to stride ahead of the Democrats and put Ohio back at the forefront, Ohio Republican Party back at the forefront of this effort, which is exactly where it belongs. Of course, we need to register voters. There's fewer of Republicans out there all the time. We know of Republicans who are out there, unregistered voters who are out there who would probably be receptive to the Republican cause and Republican candidates. And so we're making a commitment to that and to renew our outreach. Where do you go? Oh, no problem at all. Our Secretary of State, John Husted, is here. Right, these are the young women we're talking about appealing to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you bet.
I just wanted we were going to stop by. Can you say hi, Kylie? We were going to stop by earlier, but we had some errands to run, and I have a promise, a chairman's instructions, appealing to women voters by actually creating some. So, but I did want to say thanks for all the work that you do, and I've heard some of those points that Matt is trying to make, and look, the Republicans have had a tough time. We've lost 5 of the last 6 popular votes in the presidential race. Clearly we have to learn lessons from that and move forward, but I tell you what, in 2014 in Ohio, the most important swing state in the country that we have, the state of Ohio, the Republican team is going to do a great job. From John Kasich on down the ticket, we have a great team, and we continue to get better all the time. We're turning the economy of the state around. We're balanced in budget. You don't see any ethical problems in any of the Republican administrations like you saw when the Democrats took over earlier. And we're going to continue to run good ethical government on the basis of our core values of hard work, personal responsibility, faith, family, and freedom. And thanks for all you do, and I'm proud to be part of your team. Thanks.
It is a commitment to creating new Republican women voters, and I'm doing my share. My 2-year-old daughter, Senator Frank LaRose from up in the Akron area, is about to have his second daughter. We're doing everything we can to get them indoctrinated. We're thrilled about that. You know, we do need to get more organized at the local level, which is something that Joanne spoke to recently. And in Franklin County, we're all working together to build a precinct by precinct campaign, and having a precinct person in every single precinct in the state. We have a renewed commitment to a good, solid relationship with the Republican National Committee, who's very interested in helping us organize at the local level. You know, again, I find us all united by the same thing. Probably because we're all frustrated by the same thing. Losing.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to lose. We want to win these races. We understand that what's at stake and how important they are. And we feel so passionately and want to have these discussions because we care. Because it matters. And when you're looking at the issues that we need to do a better job at, I think it's very similar to what we look at when you try to identify the challenges. Is it one thing? No, it's everything. What do we need to do better at? We need to do better at all of the things that we've been working on. We need to do a better job of appealing to and turning out our base? Absolutely. Do we need to do a better job of expanding that base without abandoning our principles? Of course we do. Do we need to have better campaign tactics? Yes. And as chairman, that's something that I'm working on, making sure that we do. There's no magic bullet here, and so don't go looking for one. Anyone, and try not to believe anyone who tells you that there is one. That there was one particular thing that made us lose, or if we changed that we could win. Just like there's no reason that we lost, one reason we lost, there's no one way to fix it. We have to do it all, and we have to do it all together. Again, why does it matter? Because it's the Democrats ultimately that we're up against. They're the ones who believe in something very, very different than Republicans do when it comes to how we conduct ourselves and how we govern. They have a much, much different vision for the future. If you don't believe that, look no further than the White House. Here in Ohio, we cannot afford to let the Democrats come back into power. John Kasich has done a remarkable job turning the state around. He balanced an $8 billion deficit with a tax cut. He's focusing on job creation. And he's focusing on making people's lives better. He'll sign any Second Amendment bill that comes to his desk and already has. These are things that the Democrats will actively work against. And so the contrast could not be any clearer. Right now, the Democrats have found someone that they think will actually run for governor. They asked Ted Strickland, and he said no. They asked Tim Ryan, and he said no. They asked Betty Sutton, and she said no thank you. Doesn't look like Rich Cordray is going anywhere. And apparently Rob Birch was busy. So the Democratic Party leaders turned to a guy named Ed Fitzgerald from up in Cuyahoga County, who's the current Cuyahoga County executive. He's been on the job for all of about 2 years. elsewhere. He said that John Kasich is taking the state down the wrong path. Over 100,000 new jobs created since John Kasich took office. This is the man who balanced the federal budget when he was in Congress. Could you imagine that happening now? Of course, he balanced Ohio's budget, focused again on job creation. He's helping to lift Ohio out of the doldrums it was in when the Democrats controlled the state just a few years ago. And Ed Fitzgerald thinks that that's the wrong path. So if that's the best the Democrats can do, I'm looking forward to the campaign and to having this conversation so we can draw those contrasts. And I'm going to go to every corner of the state and make sure that voters hear about it. You know, I had a prominent Central Ohio businessman recently tell me that he believes that John Kasich's re-election is the most important moment of the state's history in his lifetime. And I think he's right. It's the choice between moving forward or going backwards. It's the choice between sound conservative policy that's helped fix our state or handing the reins back to the liberals. Quite simply, it's the choice between right and wrong. So we have to pull together to address these issues. You know, my charge is to reach out, to listen, to talk to folks, to get around the state and introduce myself to many who don't know me. Have a conversation about what you care about, how we can make the party better, the things that we can do to stand strong together so that we can be behind our statewide leaders and candidates next year. We have to make sure that we return Judy French to the Supreme Court. Last year we saw a marvel in Sharon Kennedy. I became convinced that there were 3 Sharon Kennedys. Everywhere I go, she was there. I'd go to the grocery store in the morning and Sharon Kennedy would be there campaigning, and then you'd go to a gun show and there would be Sharon Kennedy, and every Lincoln Day she was at, and I actually started to think maybe I should just start offering her rides everywhere because she was going to be everywhere that I was going to be anyway. And Judy is working just as hard as Sharon Kennedy, and mind you, Sharon is on the ballot again next year too. She filled an unexpired term and has to run again. So, you know, we've got important races on our Supreme Court. We unfortunately lost one last year. We got a guy named Bill O'Neill elected to the lone Democrat on the Supreme Court. And if that doesn't give folks an understanding of how important it is to elect Republicans, this guy is interesting to say the least. He recently, dissented on a death penalty case, and his dissent said that Ohio's death penalty is unconstitutional, which it is not. It has been ruled on by the Supreme Court itself, by the United States Supreme Court, but this is the kind of leadership that the Democrats put forward. And that, folks, is the most important thing to get focused on. Okay, the most important thing to get focused on. We need to get ourselves together, we need to get in a room, we need to hammer out some of our differences, and we need to get refocused on beating the Democrats in 2013, 2014, and beyond. You know, it's important to me, too. This has been a life's worth of work for me. As Joanne said, I was one of those people who just showed up. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in politics. In fact, I didn't know anyone in Ohio. I had just moved here in 1990. When George Voinovich and Mike DeWine were running for governor and lieutenant governor. I came downtown and had answered a call for being a volunteer. I got involved with the campaign at a very late stage, but just showed up. Came to help where I could. Run errands when needed, or take the bus downtown in the morning from Ohio State's campus and go to work. And there is so much to be said for just being there, for just showing up. The next thing you know, you're meeting people and getting different opportunities, and I've been very blessed and fortunate in my life to have some really wonderful opportunities to travel the world and work on statewide campaigns and be part of elections that we've won, and now have the opportunity to lead the party as its new chairman. So it's an incredible thrill for me. And I believe that in 2014 we will get together. We will be strong. We'll have a conversation over the next several months, and we'll talk about our differences, and we'll work those out. At the end, we'll get focused on beating the Democrats, and we'll get it done. I know I have a lot to prove. I know there's a lot of folks out there who don't know me. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that, to prove myself. At the end of the day, the proof will be in the results. I already have started reaching out, and I will continue to reach out. I'm not here today. I'm not doing this. I didn't run for chairman because I wanted the job. I'm not here today because it's my duty. I'm here today because this is my life's passion. This is something I care very much about, and have been committed to ever since I started taking the bus downtown to help out on that campaign so many years ago. So I look forward to working with all of you, and thank you again for having me here today. And I'm certainly happy to stick around if you'd like me to, or if you need to get to the program, move it along, that's fine too.
We have time for a couple questions or not.
Okay, we can do a few questions if anyone would like to ask me. There's one here and one here. Maybe we'll just take those two and, yes ma'am.
I have a really big concern. I'm a wife of a military guy, and I know that the registration of military guys is down in our state, like by a significant amount because of this MOVE Act. And I felt like we should have had a national ad against Obama, because I really feel that this MOVE Act that was supposed to help our guys vote actually made it harder, and he should have been called on it.
Yeah.
And he never was.
No, I think that's right. And, you know.
It could have been the difference in our state. Of course, I still think they stole Hamilton, I still think they stole Cleveland. I think they stole the state, really.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, and of course, thank you for your sacrifice and for your husband's service. We're, you know, we were all very concerned when we heard the stories about what was happening with the military voting last year. It was, quite frankly, again, one of those things that if it had happened on the other, if it had been a Republican trying to do it to a traditionally Democratic base of voters, you know, again, the media would have been a total meltdown. I have gotten to the point in my life where I just stopped complaining about the media's coverage because I've just come to accept that this is, you know, these are the rules that we play under. But we have to do a much better job of making sure that we're getting our message out there. That's why, again, the social media and being able to reach out and having our auxiliary groups and having our organizations and our coalitions getting this message out directly. The White House does an effective job of going around the media. We need to do that too. We need to be making sure that folks know what's going on and do everything we can to get as many people participating in the process as possible. John Husted was just here, and he's the guy who was attacked mercilessly in 2012 about, quote, suppressing the vote. Let me just say two things about that. First of all, it was the Republicans who created 35 days of early voting as a response to the long lines that Democrats were complaining about in the 2004 presidential election. And Republican governor who signed that bill. Every Democrat in the legislature in 2005 voted against expanding early voting. Every one. Don't ever let them convince you it was their idea. The current chairman of the Ohio Democratic Party, Chris Redfern, who was in the legislature then, voted no. So the self-righteousness that they have no problem, you know, putting out there is offensive. I mean, you know, it absolutely should be. And of course, we've done so many other things to expand the opportunity to vote. Secretary Husted had, for the first time ever, sent every registered voter an absentee application. This is something a Democrat had never done. He's allowed people to change their voting address online. We're doing all kinds of things to expand our opportunities for folks to vote. We need to focus on veteran voting, on military voters also. And you know, the second point on that is I saw a voter suppression campaign happening last year in Ohio. It was the Obama campaign. They read the polls in the summer, and they knew that people didn't like their candidate and probably weren't going to. And they knew that the wonderful economic news that might help them turn things around wasn't coming. So they ran the ugliest, nastiest campaign against Mitt Romney and assailing his person and his character that I've ever seen. And if that's not voter suppression, I don't know what is. The whole idea was to get folks to say, well, I don't like this guy, I don't like that guy worse. So I'm either going to not participate, which is what happened in a lot of cases, or I'm just going to hold my nose and vote for the person at least I feel like I know. And you know, that was and then of course turn around and blame us for being the ones who were trying to suppress the vote when the exact opposite was true. We just have to do a much better job of getting our message out about that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm the president of the Hamilton Women's Club, and as far as the Ohio party is concerned, getting the message and registering voters, I would like to see more presence on our universities in Ohio. I went to Ohio State University during the 2010 and 12 election and saw this huge sign for Obama
I was, when I was a student at Ohio State, we really didn't have a very active college Republican organization. We just didn't. That's why I started getting involved in campaigns. The state party has three very important auxiliary organizations. Of course, the Ohio Federation of Republican Women, the Ohio Black Republicans Association, and then the Ohio Young Republicans, College Republicans, who we work with very closely. I could not be more excited about this current crop of college Republicans that we have. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to meet Sam Bain, who's the outgoing president of the College Republican Federation. He is an African American young man, and he's going places. I mean, this kid is terrific, and he has done a remarkable job of rebuilding that organization at the campus by campus level, and he's turned it over to some folks who I think are going to continue to do that. And the party is committed to supporting them and have helped them raise. We helped them raise money this year so that they could do their convention, which I went down and spoke at Miami University. We helped them send a record-sized number of people to CPAC a month or two ago, and want to very seriously continue that process, because that is such an important block of voters that we're losing. You know, we lose all the time, and it's not dissimilar to the challenges that I've seen over the years with why we're losing among minority voters. You know, we kind of just stopped trying. And I would have loved to have arrived at the Ohio Republican Party inheriting a program that was several cycles old, to start making a difference with some of those voters, and among African American voters. We're the party of Lincoln, and we're down to record low support among African Americans for our Republican candidates. We have to get re-engaged in those communities. We just have to do that, even if they're for long-term benefits. They might not affect our candidates next year, maybe just on the margins, but we have to make a recommitment to that and to the college Republicans too, and we're certainly going to do that. Do we have time for one more? Or?
One more, that's it.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
I noticed that you did not speak of Redford before, but you just did now because he's been on my mind. He's in our area, and I think he uses some very, very strong language against Republicans, and I'm not sure that they're always truthful. So how are we going to counteract him?
He does. He has a style that's, I think, very abrasive, turns people off. You may remember was it 2010, he was using profanity in his speeches, talking about the Tea Party. He used some really ugly invective to talk about the Tea Party in Ohio, all to try to get his folks riled up. I don't know very many people that like him. I don't know that it matters in this job whether they like you or they don't like you, the public likes you or not. He has a style that I think is combative and wrong, and I think it reflects in the Democrat Party's success in statewide campaigns over the years. You know, in the ultimate purple state, where as Secretary Husted said, we've lost 5 of the last 6 popular votes nationally in presidential elections. In Ohio, has for the most part followed that trend. We won 85% of our statewide elections for our statewide office holders. We continue to dominate the Ohio Supreme Court. We do things differently than they do, and I think just from a style standpoint, we'll probably continue to. He throws a lot of stuff out there that, quite frankly, is red meat. I had a joint appearance with him about a week and a half ago in front of the Ohio Realtors Association, and I made the point that, in my opinion, the best way to help someone get health care is to help them get a job. The best way to help folks who are having trouble in their families or with their marriages or with help them get to work. We have an unemployment crisis that we're continuing to improve and do better on. We've got a long way to go. And he actually disagreed with me on the dates. Said, "Oh, I don't think that's not true. You don't help people get health care by getting a job." And I looked over and I said, "Thank you." Saying that I'm going to be mentioning that every time I can, and so this is one of those opportunities. But to me, it just illustrates kind of what I'm talking about now. What I want to continue to talk about as we move forward and as we get into the elections in 2014. there's a very critical and important difference between us and them. You know, it's to me, it's the difference between right and wrong.
I think he wants to go to Washington.
Well, maybe we ought to send him there. What can we do to help him get there? I'll buy his ticket. Anyway, thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We can be on my left side.
Okay.
Okay. From Delaware County, Mary Lou Solaris. Pardon? She had to leave early. Okay. Hamilton County, Lori Hart. From Hamilton, we also have Raya. Why don't you come up here, because they'll probably want to, where is Tammy? Oh, right here. She'll probably want to take your picture, so she already got her pin, but we want her to come up here anyway. And from Pickaway County, Sandra Darby. Now, I have some other names here of new club presidents. From Audley's, Tess Isoff. Now, if they're here, then we might have missed them, but I don't think they are. Butler, Donna Irvin. Clinton, Cindy Bailey, Blanchester Republican Women's Club. Crawford, Sis Love. Hardin, Beverly Wilcox. Mahoney, Ellen Blasdell. Is Suzanne here? Maybe it was a different Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen. From Marion, Jackie Smith. And from Ottawa, Catherine Wabacher. And from Wayne County, Roseanne Schreiner. Did I miss anybody? Is there anyone here that is a new club president this year? Okay. And ladies, sometimes it's hard to be a president. Oh, well, I'm talking to these ladies. Sometimes it's hard to be a president. Believe me, I know. But I congratulate each one of you. And if there's ever a problem, give me a call, and I'll try to help you. Now, let's have a big round of applause for them. Do you girls know, if you've never done an award as a club president, how hard it is? I have helped our Sandusky County president, and I did also when I was president of our club. It is a huge job. Donna Thatcher and Peg Reddy had 2 tables and the floor all lined up with pictures and newspaper clippings, and it's a huge job. So when they win an award, you know it's an award because they really won it, because it is a lot of work, and it was a lot of work for Sally and Risa, and who else was on the committee? Beth West. Beth West is on a well-deserved vacation. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Risa, and I think Peg and Ryan might be helping her since Beth had to go on her vacation.
Thank you. We're going to do this as quickly as possible because I have a feeling you all want to go home. Just a quick explanation. If you're starting a new club and you want a good template for how to organize your club, The awards criteria is an excellent source of that. These are how the awards are determined. A diamond award is 100 points or more. A gold award is 86 to 99 points. And that's all I'm going to tell you about because we don't have any silver or bronze awards. We're all gold and diamond here. The President's Award, oh well, actually, I should explain this. We have three different categories determined by the size of your membership. A small club has up to 36 members, a medium club has 36 to 70 members, and a large club has over 70 members. So we have several clubs within those groups, those categories, that are getting awards, but we have three, one in each size category that got the most points, and they will receive the President's Awards. And the first award I have to give out today goes to Peg Redding. Peg is receiving an honorable mention for getting 9 new members in the Sandusky County Republican Women's Club. Thank you. You want to do the awards from now on, Peg? If you'll hand them to me, I'll read them off. There, this pile right here. You should go right from the top down. Next to the certificates. The next award goes to Mary Ann Bubb of Licking County. She recruited 10 new members, and she tied. The next one is the next award goes to Vicki Hartley of Worthington County. They were all in order from the top down. We finally found Mary Ann's. We found Mary Ann's award. The next award goes to the Morrow County Republican Women's Club. Prepare to be impressed here. They increased their membership by 24. Wow. Okay. The next award is the Gold Award, and it goes to Morrow County Republican Women. That's a medium-sized club. That's what you're supposed to have. Okay. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I read wrong. Can you rewind, please? This is embarrassing. Hamilton County Republican Women increased their membership by 24. Sorry about that, ladies. What does that say, Morrow? That's for you, that's for you. So we have Hamilton County. Okay. Hamilton County, do you have someone here? Why don't you stay here, where we have another one? And while you're here, we also have a gold award for Lori. We have a gold award for a medium-sized club for Hamilton County for exemplary performance. Our next award for a medium club goes to Dark County for exemplary performance. The next award goes to Morgan County Republican Women's Club. It's a Diamond Award for exemplary performance. Muskingum County. Muskingum County received a Diamond Award also for exemplary performance. She's not here often. The next award goes to Sandusky County. It's a Diamond Award for medium-sized club for exemplary performance. Next one goes to Republican Women of Hancock County, another Diamond Award in the medium category. The next award goes to Richland County Republican Women's Association, another Diamond Award. That's Beth Jackson from Muskingum County, the president. The next Diamond Award goes to Licking County Republican Women's Club. This is a great deal of work for the people who put this together. It's hours, sometimes days of work. The next award is another Diamond Award for a large club to Warren County Republican. Now this takes us to the presidential awards, and I have a little story that I'll be real quick about. I was a member of this committee last year, and I volunteered to take care of the prizes this year because I had this really special treat in mind. The presidential awards this year are United States non-on flags that have been flown over the Capitol specifically for the four clubs that won this. I ordered them in March for May 1st. They did not arrive. I called last Monday, left a message, a call back. Thursday I called, and the guy who was supposed to return my call for Monday answered the phone, not knowing that I'm the person who submitted the request. he told me that the request was not sent to them in time. I didn't argue with him, I want the flags. So I really apologize to you next 3 clubs, your flags, and then he said to me, is there a date that would be of meaning to the Republican women for these flags to be flown? And I was very surprised they hadn't already been flown because it's been 7 weeks. You're supposed to give me 6 weeks. But anyway, is there a date? And I said, well, how about Flag Day? And he said, when's Flag Day? So the flags will be flown on June 14th, and I should have them by the end of June. You should have them by July 4th, and I do apologize. Okay. The President's Award will go to Lancaster County for a small club, the most points in the small club category. And that should be the top frame there. Yes, Lancaster County, is anyone here? Okay. You may be interested though, if you all remember Sornapa Fulford, she was the Central District Vice President here for several years, and moved a couple years ago to Worthington, North Carolina. She is the person who created the certificates for us, and she does a great job, I think. The next award for the most points, the President's Award for the most points in the medium-sized club, goes to Dark County. Now, by process of elimination, the last group probably knows who they are. The club receiving the most points for a large club is Licking County Republican Women. If you ever get a chance to go to a Licking County meeting, it is well worth the time. It's a very interesting educational group. I have only one other thing to say. If your club submitted an application, a notebook over here, please come and get it and take it home with you. I don't know what will happen to them if you don't, but there's lots of hours of work in them, and somebody probably wants to see them back. So they're all up here on the table. Please make sure that someone from your club collects yours before you leave today. Thank you.